in 1982. LBC weather, a fine and dry day for many with sunny periods, breezy with the odd shower for some northern and eastern coastal areas, and a high of 15 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Tim Humphrey.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Good afternoon to you if you're just joining us here at LBC. If you were listening an hour or so ago, I was speaking to the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson and asking him, in light of the detail that's beginning to emerge anyway, about the Brexit offer on the Irish border and the backstop that the UK government appears to be intent on placing before the EU and the Republic of Ireland. He was talking about the border, and I asked him a simple question. What is his understanding of the nature of that border? Because Boris Johnson said in his speech that this is merely a technical discussion. Now, we know that the Irish border is a lot more than a technical discussion. So I want to carry on talking about that this hour with you, as well as your thoughts more generally on what Boris Johnson, in that speech and in the lead up to it, in the days and weeks that led up to it, what he's been offering to you, the voter, for the general election that is inevitably coming either before Christmas or shortly afterwards. Are you buying what he is attempting to sell? 0345 606 0973. But to the border first. Kevin Toulis, author of Rebel Hearts, Journeys Within the IRA's Soul. Kevin reported on Ireland's troubles, or the troubles, for 20 years or more, and joins me now. Kevin, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Let me put to you the same question I put to Gavin Williamson, if I may, about the border. I asked him to try and describe the nature of it, to get a sense of whether he had a feel for it. I know you have a feel for it, but describe the nature of that border and why it is such a sensitive part of these negotiations.
Well, in reality, the border is a figment of political imagination. It's a line drawn on a map. You normally just, at the current moment, you know that you've travelled from the sovereignty of Northern Ireland to the sovereignty of the Republic of Ireland just by the change in the tarmac and the road signs. The border itself obviously is 300 miles long. It twists and meanders. You know, it was invented in 1922, whereas the geology of Ireland is something like, 400 million years old. It is just a political act. The real problem about trying to see it in some sort of technical way is that this real issue is to do with consent. And to be really blunt about it, the British can only rule in Ireland with the consent of the Irish, or acquiescence of the Irish. Currently, you can drive back and forth between both jurisdictions. It doesn't affect your economic life, but the minute that you begin to impose controls, then you do affect people who live in Ireland, and we can clearly see that they don't consent to it. I mean, only 349,000 people in Northern Ireland voted in favour of leave, 470,000 voted to remain, and the entire population of Ireland is 6.7 million people. So that puts 350,000 people against something like 6.3 million who don't agree with Brexit. Now, that is not a formula for political peace in Ireland.
So if, and we'll find out, we're told anyway, we'll find out more detail later on in Parliament, if this offer seems to, so far, the stuff I've been reading, it seems to consist of, dare I say it, another border in Ireland, into the south, across the centre of the country, almost like a kind of middle border that's all around customs checks. I mean, that, to me, again, is inconceivable. I mean, I'm Anglo-Irish, and I identify with Britain as much as I identify with Ireland in different ways, but equally. And that my stomach actually turned when I saw that suggestion.
Yeah, it does seem almost ludicrous, really, when these idea of a sort of customs clearance zone. Now, I don't want to rehearse the whole history of the Troubles, but people used to drive across the border with car bombs and blow up things in Northern Ireland that were 10 miles and 15 miles inside Northern Ireland. There was a bombing by the so-called Real Irie in Derry in the courthouse, which is obviously in Northern Ireland. So I don't really get the logic of why it's somehow safer to have a customs clearance zone away from the border than something that's 5 to 10 miles in. I can honestly say, from all the experience in South Armagh, that the US Marine Corps, armed with a squad of Apache helicopters, could not impose a customs clearance zone there against the will of the people. If you look at the history of the whole Troubles, I mean, the British Army used to helicopter in to cross the Glen because it was too dangerous to drive on the road. So the notion that somehow you can just do these so-called customs posts and people aren't going to object and somehow it's 5 miles down the road, it's going to be okay, it just seems nonsensical, really.
And is it your understanding, and again I have to stress we don't know the full detail yet, we will know more of it later on, but is it your understanding that this this proposed ability to renegotiate the whole thing 2 years in, 2.5 years in, seems to be offered merely to the DUP and not to everybody, or have I misread that?
Well, again, that's a profound misunderstanding of the axis of power. I mean, the Stormont Assembly hasn't actually been in session for up to 3 years now. It is a really tiny little regional assembly, and this has then been given parity with a sovereign EU government and with the EU itself. It's almost like saying that Yorkshire District Council should have a kind of double lock on whether Britain is or is not part of the EU. I mean, why would a sovereign government like the Dublin government or the EU agree to, in a sense, the whole trading relationship of the EU be controlled and given the veto of an ineffective political assembly that hasn't even met in the last 3 years? It is bizarre.
I mean, on this side of the water, there are very many conflicting political agendas around Brexit. It's true in Ireland as well, isn't it? Talk us through some of them.
Well, I think that, what hasn't really come up, but obviously is now being threatened by this. There is one other solution to the Irish backstop.
Yeah, leave.
And that is a united Ireland. If you take Ireland entirely out of the equation, then we solve all these problems.
Yeah.
But that leads to, an awful lot of potential political instability and does itself risk a return to violence in some form. I mean, what the handling of the Johnson government is, given the achievements of Tony Blair, given this great sort of historic progress that was made.
And John Major and others as well, I think it's worth saying, isn't it?
Absolutely true. I mean, but this was the Irish question was a question which bedeviled British politics.